This podcast may contain adult themes.
This podcast is for entertainment purposes only.
The views and opinions in this podcast are expressly our own.
When I get to the workplace, I like to fuck shit up.
Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way.
Hey, are you tired of toxic workplaces and the negativity that comes with them?
We hear you, and we're here to shake things up. Welcome to Let's Break Up Toxic Workplace Stories, the podcast that's all about breaking up with workplace toxicity.
I'm Nicola, and I'm here with my co-host Gina. Together, we're going to explore real-life experiences of workplace toxicity and offer a sense of encouragement and unity.
That's right. We're tackling the tough topic of negativity in the workplace and turning it into a movement for positivity.
We'll be interviewing guests to share their experiences and offer practical solutions for dealing with workplace toxicity. Our aim is to promote solidarity and a sense of community amongst our listeners.
Let's Break Up is quickly becoming the go-to source for anyone looking to share and then ditch the drama and create a happier, healthier work environment.
So join us each week as we explore the various forms of toxicity in the workplace. Get ready to join the revolution against red flags and toxic workplaces.
Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell all your friends.
In this week's episode, as our pre-game chat,
Yes.
I wonder, I'm curious to know, curious minds must know. I'm curious to know if other podcasters work as hard as we do.
I'm sure they do, but here's my thought about it. Is
Okay.
like the ones that are like the big podcasts, like
Oh, no, they pay
obviously, well, right. They have like an army of people who are doing the writing and the researching and all that. I mean, I don't think this type of podcast could ever be like written.
No.
Because, you know, it's very much like we're just sharing, you know, we're commiserating.
I could have easily done with another hour of sleep this morning, easily.
Same. Because what I keep kind of doing is I do this like really fun thing where I wake up around like that witching hour of like 3:34.
Oh my God, that's the worst.
Lately it's been to pee, but for while I was working at the place we met, I would be like mentally just abused and done by like 7:30. I'd get into bed at 7:30 and then I'd wake up at like midnight or 1 and I wouldn't be able to fall asleep for like 2 hours.
Was it like crippling anxiety at that time?
Just, I don't know if it was anxiety. It was just, I couldn't shut my brain off.
You know, I would wake up at like 3 a.m. with crippling anxiety thinking that something has gone horribly wrong.
Which was most likely the truth. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like for you, it was definitely the truth. I just remember the first day that I worked there, like that I was kind of released into the wild, like my WhatsApp wouldn't stop going off like from 10 p.m. on. And I quickly had to like be like, all right, that's not what we're doing. Like, that's not how I work. That's not how anyone should work.
Well, I'm curious to maybe talk to our guest today about some of these feelings that we had, because we're talking to a doctor. Ooh,
very fancy. Yeah.
Oh, so fancy. And she has a PhD in psychology.
Right. And she's going to be talking
a
about
little
like,
bit fancy for us.
Very fancy.
I almost feel like we need like mimosas and canapes. I think this one's going to be interesting because I'm curious to kind of maybe use our workplace as an example of.
Well, so she also is going to be talking about like frenemies and how women often try to cut down other women. And
yeah,
I mean, the majority of people at our workplace were women, and I absolutely felt that.
Oh, good morning.
How are you?
We're
good. Good.
I say good, but I'm like, it's the butt crack of tomorrow morning. I'm like,
I hope you're using caffeine there.
Yes, I am.
Where are you coming to us from, Amber?
I'm in Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
Where's Virginia?
Yeah.
Where is
Richmond, Virginia.
Yeah, but where is Virginia?
It's underneath.
Yeah, East Coast.
Yeah. So, like close to where you are. No, but it's on the East Coast. Oh no, wait, that's Yeah, no, that's on the East Coast.
Yeah, but when I was still in Manhattan, I would be closer to her than where I am now because I'm all the way down in South Florida.
Wait, I've got to Google where this is.
Oh, or where are you in Florida?
I'm
like-
right outside of Miami.
Got it. I'm kind of in between the middle of New York and Florida.
Yeah, you kind
Oh,
of.
wait, I see now.
I just heard this weird statistic. How close are you to Norfolk, Virginia?
No, so Norfolk, which is what they pronounce it. Yeah, they pronounce it with Norfolk. Yeah. What's the
So
statistic?
you're not that close because the statistic is like it's the one city that has like the most murder per capita.
Wait, what?
So tell us who you are, why you thought it would be cool to come here and chat with us today.
So I saw you all in the Facebook group from the podcast collab. And I have to say your toxic workplace stories got me because I specialize in Mean Girls. So I'm all about female rivalry and I've studied it. I wrote a book about it and it happens between women in general, but it's especially awful when it happens at work, when, that's your livelihood for your making money. And I have some horrible stories. That's what I wrote my dissertation on, about this happening at work. And now that's what I do. So I just thought, wow. And then I listened to, and I'm like, oh, I like these two. So I just thought there was a good synergy. So that's me in a nutshell. Yes.
Okay, but you're fancier than that.
I may have prepared a little introduction.
Okay, go for it.
Oh no, wait, time out.
No,
what Nicola has now become very fond of is putting in people's like how to introduce so-and-so in chat
CPG.
Yeah. And then it comes out with like, it
The
makes
most.
you sound like you're way better in my case, it made me sound way better than I probably am.
You've done a good job for Amber, I would like to state.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay.
Amber, you could either support ChatGPT, the AI, or you could refute. All right, go ahead, Nicola.
Pleasure to introduce Dr. Amber, a highly accomplished individual with a PhD in IO psychology and the founder of 2B Coaching and Consulting. You are, from what I have seen, a respected thought leader in the area of women's rivalry, offering valuable insights and strategies to help women navigate this very complex topic. With her extensive knowledge and experience, she has become a sought-after consultant and coach for individuals and organizations seeking to address issues related to workplace dynamics, toxicity, leadership, and diversity and inclusion. We are thrilled to have Dr. Amber here with us today to share her expertise with us.
It's kind of on. It sounds very fancy when you say it, but
That's
I
pretty
talk
good.
about mean girls at work. Yeah.
I feel like we're going to have to use a lot of mean girl memes in this entire episode.
Absolutely. So it's
specifically fetch. We're getting rid of that.
Well, no. So I've been trying to get Nicola on board with calling our listeners Toxies, like, hey, Toxie, hey, fellow Toxie. I feel like it's the perfect time, since you're specialized in Mean Girls, that we should start,
that.
right? See, so I have approval from Dr. Amber. So go F yourself, Nicola.
Well, you know why it makes it fun, but it like catches your attention.
Right. So, hey, Toxies, it's so fetch that we're saying, hey, Toxies. So I want Dr. Amber to get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. So I'm curious to know, you mentioned that you've listened to a couple of the episodes of the podcast, and you know that we met at a toxic workplace that was run by women. So I'm kind of curious to know, and not like a hugely deep diving into it, but what were some of the things that you kind of identified as red flags when listening to it?
First and foremost, that this is so common. And it's just not talked about, but often so. I don't know. I can't remember how long ago. I mean, when you first recognized you both were experiencing it, how long it took you to actually talk about it, because that usually is slow to come to the surface.
It was slow. It was.
Because you kind of feel alien. I know. So I wrote all about this. I have all my schoolwork on it. And then later it happened to me. And I didn't even realize it was happening to me after I studied this. So
it's a phenomena, right?
Yes.
It's like, it's like, you might not remember, but one of the first things out of the owner's mouth when we had our very first interview was, well, nobody's quit, but we have fired people. And I just thought like, haha, that's cute. Like, what a
Yeah.
fucking red flag.
That's a big red flag.
I don't need to know that.
But it can be like, it's not talked about. And then when it does start to bubble up, I'm sure most people do find out it's happening to other women. But when it is to you, you feel alienated. Often it's not done in front of other people. It squishes your self-esteem, and it's hard. It's very intangible. So it's hard to document and share it with other people to relay what's happening, especially like if you escalated it, like it's kind of ambiguous. But it makes you feel off.
I think one of our things, I think that we both agree with is our big issue was around that toxic positivity piece. There was a ton of toxic positivity, and we're pretty direct people. So we're like, let's just go and sort out whatever we need to sort out. We do not need the fluff and the pandering around that. But we were reprimanded for not being as fluffy as we should have been with these really toxically sweet, syrupy, dripping humans.
Yeah.
And because you got fired for that, Gina. You got fired for not being toxically sweet.
I got fired because I quote unquote went against all their core values,
which were Dr. Seussianisms.
they none of them made sense.
Contradicting.
Very contradicting. But I had 45-day like check-in or whatever.
Yeah.
I was told like, so you make people feel stupid. And it's like, well, when I actually know something because I've experienced it and I'm saying, no, what you're suggesting won't work. If you have a question as to why it won't work, I'll be happy to explain, but I have a million other things going on that you guys are piling on top of me that I don't feel like I need to go into the nitty-gritty of why it won't work if I know for a fact it won't work.
Well, and that's your experience. That's why they hired you. In my thoughts. Yeah. And I had it in a different way. I got told I wasn't a team player.
It's the same thing.
Please describe what exactly is a team player.
Yeah, she didn't actually say I didn't work well with others, but pretty much she said it in that nice way. Like you're not a team player, and I'm like, but when you're giving other people the same work you're giving me because you don't trust me, and then you're slowly taking me away from meetings and things, like I'm not going to fall into that trap. I see what you're doing. And so like you, I'm direct and I say things, and people don't like to hear the truth, but I don't mince words. Like, I mean, this is me and this is what you get. You know what I found though, with that, I bet that the people that were in charge were threatened by your knowledge.
That's my thing.
And you're comfortable and you're comfortable in your own skin. Like you were not bothered. You didn't acquiesce to the group norm. And you're like, this is how it is because I know it. Like you were comfortable in your knowledge. And when somebody isn't, they're threatened by it. And that's often another way these ugly behaviors come to the surface.
So when I'm curious to know now, when you were let go for not being a team player, what were some of the other red flags that had come up that because you said you didn't even notice it?
So they didn't let me go. I quit. So it went on for like 6 months. And mind you, I was a consultant and I had taken over. That's the same
thing as what happened with me.
Yeah, I had taken over the team. Yeah. I'd taken over the team while the one individual was out. And when she came back, I don't know what it was that set her off, but it slowly I began to be uninvited to meetings. She began not sharing information with me. She took credit for my work. There were all these different things. And I just, that feeling like you can feel it. So I approached her on a couple of times and I thought I'll put it back on me. We're here for the same problem. Like I feel our communication could be better. Oh no, Amber, the communication is just fine. But then the next 2 days later, she like exploded on me. And I think in looking back, it's because I took initiative and it caught her off guard. But when she could take initiative and be in control, then she could say what she wanted. So in all honesty, how I really knew I needed to change and had to leave is my mom said, I hate to see you doubt yourself because of this woman. And I went, oh my God, like this is what I've studied. And if I have studied this extensively, and I don't see it. What's it do to women who have no clue? Like, it sucked me under. I was just thinking I needed to change projects, but no, she was awful.
I like to ask the question because I'm a firm believer that we all have a part to play in the workplace, even if it is toxic, if it is toxic. And I identify some of my issues. What part do you think you can take responsibility for in that dynamic?
I agree with you, because I think to a degree we all do have, whether we know it or not, it might be our subconscious, but we all play a part. I will shut down sometimes if I am called out immediately because I need to process it, and so I think with her, I think our personality styles were very different with working together. And I probably didn't handle it from the onset of, learning what her style was, what her triggers were, and then vice versa, me knowing my style and what my triggers are. So just that kind of more psychological safety awareness of how you work with people or what your brain does. And so I totally own that. And I totally own that there were parts of, I had done this in other parts of this company and I did it seamlessly. So, I knew the work and how to do it in my sleep. I'm not saying I'm all this and that, but I would say it would probably be our personality styles, like learning to, you're not always going to work with people that you love. You just have to deal with that. And so after a while, I just got to the point where I think, and the behavior towards me, like you kind of shut down. And so then it got to the point that, fuck you, I don't want to, I'm done. So I shut down and I wasn't really doing as much. So yeah, I did start to lose interest in doing the work.
I very much identify with that because I was just like, I'm clearly not valued.
Yeah. And studies show that when you aren't valued or appreciated, your productivity goes down, your desire to collaborate and work with others because you don't know how you're going to be received. It's natural, but it's just, I also think hindsight is 2020. If you would have asked me what was going on in the moment, I would have said nothing. She's crazy,
Yeah, but there was probably truth to that commentary reaction. Yeah, like she's nuts or she's crazy. Like, I can only speak for myself, but looking back at, the workplace that we started the podcast about, the actual premise of the company, if I really stopped to think about it.
This we don't like anymore.
Was to profit off of an already vulnerable demographic. After I stepped away from it, I just felt really gross that I was part of that.
No, that makes complete sense. And but sometimes I think it's hard to assess a culture until you're actually in it, because when you're interviewing and everybody's on their best behavior and you're doing your research, who's going to tell you the nitty gritty about?
Oh, I did. I gave her the red flags.
I would, but it's like thing. A lot of people don't.
But people did when I came on. I just was like, they're a small company, they're a small startup.
Yeah.
This isn't anything I can't handle. They probably just don't have the experience. And that's why someone like me will be beneficial. Yeah. And if I had been given the ability to work in the way that I work best and shine, I could have absolutely helped that company grow and turn it around. Yeah. But I was constantly told, you're not nice enough, or butting heads with people, and
not nice enough.
And it was all women. It's funny enough, the one man who is employed there currently, he was my biggest fan. He's like, you make my job so much easier.
Of course he did. He's not threatened by you.
So wait, so can you explain or
how this happens? How does this happen?
Why does this happen? Is it because women are threatened by other women? Like, what is
it? Because women are dicks? What is happening here?
They don't have one, so they make up for it. No, there are so many reasons why. And so it's this, I'll just say, I did not study men. I don't want to exclude men, but I've only studied women. So that's just what put that out
caveat.
there.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Think about what you know. I'm here for
it. Exactly. Women, it can come from so many things. It can stem from jealousy. It can stem from the need for control. It can, you're power hungry. It may be how you're raised. You grew up in an environment where you were never good enough, or you have a female figure in your life that was always putting you down. There are so many reasons why it comes. But with women, we constantly, whether we know it or not, are comparing ourselves with our friends, with our sisters, with our mothers. And so there is that comparison that all women have. That's how it comes out. And also when women or girls, little boys and little girls are born with the same type of aggression. So when I did my research, I had to go to theories of aggression because, there's nothing out there about mean girls. But with little girls develop social intelligence earlier than little boys. And that's when the brain starts forming. And that's when it goes from a physical type of aggression to that mental or using your brain type of aggression. So that's why it's developed earlier in girls, and it is more prominent in girls. And it doesn't mean men or boys don't have it, but girls will get back with words or, intangible or passive aggressive aggressions, where men, think about, you might have Tom and Dave in the boardroom and they're mad at each other and they're pissed off. And then an hour later, they'll be on the golf course having a beer and having a good old time, and they've left it all behind. Women kind of tend to sit and think about things, and it escalates. With this type of behavior for women, it's not black and white. There are so many things that can.
I mean, when you were talking, I was like, oh, holy shit, this is a whole other 10 more years of therapy for me to have to go through now. Because I was like, got it, had it, did it, done it, doing it now. Exactly what you said.
Me too.
And I think maybe at one point in my career, well, certainly at the company that Nicola and I met at, I was considered the mean girl. But there I really was not. That was not my
you
intention.
were direct. It sounds like you were direct, and that off-put other people.
Yes.
And that's why you were
But
labeled the mean girl.
No, I was the mean girl first, but then I had to pass the mental.
Oh,
yes,
so you
then I got
passed the torch. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So
now you're two mean girls together.
Who are actually not very
mean. No.
Right. But it also goes to show that not given the right environment, people, right? We won't shine. We will become
mean girls,
considered mean people. We will become manipulative.
So a lot of the work I do, I'm really focusing on it now, and I'm getting accredited in it right now. So I guess I am going back to school too, but in psychological safety, because it's always been a part of what I do, but now this just helps me explain it better to people. Mm-hmm. So when I say, I liken female rivalry or mean girl at work behaviors as bullying. And so that is a result of a lack of a psychologically safe work environment, which, Gina, is exactly what you are saying. If you have an environment where you can speak openly, there's no fear to raise your hand or be direct, where you're yourself 100%, that is psychological. You feel safe to work there. And as a result, you give more and the productivity levels go up because your brain, your body, you're happy there. But when you don't have that, for example, in an unpsychological safe environment where mean girls behaviors are occurring, often the bad behavior is getting rewarded. And so that makes everybody step back and think, what the hell is going on here? This isn't right. But people are afraid to speak up and talk about it because then you'll be in trouble for it.
And I think out of everyone at that company, Nicola and I were the only two to ever question or speak up about certain things that we found that were
inappropriate.
Not just inappropriate, but could have been done better. Why are we using this vendor in my instance?
Why are we bleeding money?
Right.
Yeah.
And then
good for you though.
But it wasn't a psychologically safe environment
Yeah.
for myself.
It was caveated as a psychologically safe
Yes.
environment with, oh, let's do our grateful Wednesdays or whatever, everybody share something you're grateful about, and like all of these
And
things.
I
Be
thought it
vulnerable,
was-
take mental health days. You've got unlimited mental health days. It's like, no, we don't have time to take
Yeah.
mental health days.
Yeah.
And also what I found, like I would post something like,
Yeah.
I'm thankful for my partner and being able to go back to New York for the weekend, and like post a picture of me and my partner in New York, and like nobody said anything about anything. Not that I need validation, but then like the super sugary sweet COO would be like,
I'm getting my toenails done.
Yeah, or like I got my kids a goldfish, and here's a picture of me holding the goldfish, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, that's so cool! What'd you name it?"
Such a good parent.
And I'm just like, okay, so clearly I am chopped liver. And then the next
Or
week
they were
like,
trained to kiss her booty because
that's what it was.
Yeah.
But then I did like my own like unofficial experiment. I was like, all right, let me talk about my daughter and my dogs the next week. Still nothing.
No.
So I was like, this is fucking bullshit. I stopped
Yeah.
participating.
Yeah,
I was like,
would too.
I
What's
was
the
like,
point?
I don't have time for this. And B, this is all bullshit. Like,
Yeah. It's
they're all
for her
trained.
to get likes, and she's trained them to get likes, and
Can we just pause here for a second and remind people that if this podcast is something you enjoy, we would love to hear from you.
You can find us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Let's Break Up Toxic Workplace Stories.
Sharing and subscribing really helps us feel validated.
oh god,
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious to dig more into kind of the study that you've done, because it sounds bloody fascinating.
it's hugely fascinating. So I was at a very well-known company, and my background, IO psychology is psychology of the workplace. So I had to do something about a problem I saw at work. And I thought, okay, I wanted it to be about women. I didn't know what it was at the time, but then I saw it happening, and I call it the elephant in the boardroom, because it was the two women at hand, but people would tiptoe around it, and you could feel it. Like you maybe couldn't place your name on what, the word on what was occurring, but you could totally feel it, and good women were walking. And so that's what piqued my interest. So when I officially for my schoolwork, I interviewed 9 women just in the workplace and their experiences. And I was wrecked after hearing their stories. I'm like, this is really real. It's not just a cat fight. It's not just women being dramatic. It's an ugly, awful behavior that when women say they won't work for somebody again, or won't be on a team of all women, or they don't have female friends, I'm like, that's tragic. We're half of the population, and I can't imagine what it feels like to not have my female friends by my side. And so I got my dissertation, and then I kept collecting stories. I have tons of stories. So it was like in families, then it's in social circles, it's in the neighborhood, it's at work. And then oh my God, this is happening everywhere. So that's what kept me going, because I felt like the women felt like they had a trusted space to share their story, but they also felt like they were being heard. And the one thing I've heard from anyone I've ever gotten a story from is that they felt alone, and that they had no one at their back. And I'm like, that's awful. So it's sad. Yeah, it's so sad. And to not know that there are women that can uplift and empower you, it's tragic. It's just, but social media and pop culture makes fun of the behavior, and it's not funny.
Going back to your study, you said that you felt like totally wrecked after hearing some of these women's stories.
Yeah.
Are you willing to share maybe one or two of the ones that
really stood out?
Or you remember the best?
Yeah, I have. So I've put in my book, I've shared a lot of them, because I think that helps to hone in. One gal, let me see if I get it right. One gal, this was one in particular, she was working at a job she really enjoyed, and she had met this other gal. They weren't forever friends, but it was one of those people that she met, and they got along fabulously, and they just became good friends. And she said, so much so that we spent holidays with each other. Like, she brought her to her family. So that, in my mind, when you're bringing somebody to a holiday, a family holiday, that's a good friendship. You're not just bringing anybody to your family holiday gathering. So this other individual was looking for a job, and she was very she's like, it seems like you work in this great place, are there any openings? Well, there was an opening, and I can't think of their names. I'll say Mary introduced Jane to this new job, and Jane had an interview and got hired, and they ended up being on the same team. Well, and Mary was excited for her. In fact, Mary actually led that team, and Jane was on her team, but it was, like a big collaborative group. Well, Jane started to not talk to Mary. She started to ignore her. She started to act and she became unbearable in the workplace, like really targeted Jane and was ugly with her behavior towards her. And other people began to notice it. So the HR director got involved. Mary took it up with the HR leader and said, can't you see what's going on? Like, can't you do something about it? This is disruptive, and we used to be friends. And the HR leader said, well, Mary, I think you're imagining it. I don't think you two are as good as friends as you thought you were. And I think you're making it all up. And so fast forward, it turns out the HR director and Jane became good friends. And
I knew it.
Yes. And it was crazy. Like, and there are way more details and different things, but Mary ended up leaving that work environment. And she said, I was so baffled and hurt. I never understood it. Like, Jane wouldn't talk to her or tell her why she got so crazy. I don't know if it was because Mary was her leader and they were friends, and then she had to report to her. That might be my first guess, but they were certainly no longer friends. And the fact that she lost a friendship, somebody that was a good enough friend to take home to the holiday,
family.
Yeah. And then she left her job, and that this HR person didn't believe her. She found out that her and the HR gal were good friends, like going out to bars, hanging out on the weekends. Like, it became a really good, it was toxic. And so she was really hurt, on many levels by that. That's one that just comes to mind. And some of the examples she shared, I was like, oh my God, like, you can't make this stuff up.
So don't you think, like, my take on that would be that Jane and HR lady, Jane probably had the HR lady's like ear and was talking shit about Mary.
Absolutely.
Which is gossipy, is a mark of a toxic workplace.
Right. Yeah. So, shame on the HR person for, if you're
engaging in that.
You shouldn't be engaging in that.
Yeah, right.
Oh, hold on. Fun fact about gossip in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a statistic on LinkedIn. Granted, not the best source of information, but you know what? I'll take what I get every so often. And
okay, let's hear it.
They did a survey of millennials who said, and I think it was like 47%, it could have been 44, 47%, said that they actually enjoy workplace gossip because it makes you feel closer to your colleagues.
Oh, that's true. That's why people gossip. It fosters a sense of bonding and trust.
Community.
Yes, it doesn't mean it's real, but it initially feels like it.
Yeah.
But don't you think, I kind of like, there's part of me that thinks workplace gossip is important in some aspects, I guess, depending on what type of gossip. Is it character assassination? That's not good. But is it like gossiping about like something frivolous, like I think so-and-so, whatever, like, or not, I don't know. I feel like that might be character assassination, or just like, I don't know. I feel like there is a level of quote unquote office gossip, like talk around the water cooler in the olden days, that does foster a sense of community. Like, I remember years ago, coming into the office and everybody talking about the episode of The Office they saw last night. Like, that's a form of gossip, right? But it was like,
or is that sharing?
I feel like I don't know, because then like someone would say, well, our boss is like Michael, and we'd be like, ha ha ha, that's funny. Yeah. But it wouldn't go past that. And I think that it did kind of foster some sort of office or departmental camaraderie, Well,
I think sharing you have to share, like sharing, you watch The Office, and then sharing personal tidbits. That's how you get to know each other as people, and not just workplace.
I always get
Right, you
nervous
know?
with sharing, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm naturally an open book. If you ask me a question, I will absolutely give
Yeah.
you the honest answer. I'm not going to sugarcoat the answer for you. If you say, "Oh, tell me about your childhood trauma," I'm like, let me unpack this for you. Strap on in, sister.
Yeah.
Let me go. And I'm like, I know I know being vulnerable and being approachable and being connected to people is really important in the workplace. But I wonder if sometimes, for me particularly, but I don't know about others, if it's sharing too much and then you're just a target for gossip.
Well, I think you have to know who you're sharing with. Are they a valuable, trusted person? Like if you're sharing top secrets, is it to be trusted in their vault of secrecy? Or are they the office gossip that goes out and shares with everybody and then adds a little bit more, like, because that's what happens with gossip. A little bit extra always is added.
I'm curious.
Yeah,
to
it's kind of
see
like a game of like telephone almost. And it's like you hear, by the time it gets to the final person or whatever, it's completely off the mark.
Yes.
So back to your story, like when you first started telling us about it, I was like, nope, do not hire friends. Like that is.
Yep.
So I made the mistake of getting my friend hired as an intern at a company that I was at many, many years ago, like probably close to 15 years ago. And we got into a personal fight about something.
Yeah.
And she took it upon herself to email the owner of the company and say all of these awful things about me, which at the time, none of them were true. I'm surprised I kept my job. I was just like, I can't, like, you're fucking with my livelihood. Like, I would never.
No. How did the owner handle it though? Did they believe her?
Well, she was a fucking toxic mess herself. So she like her desk was like within my peripheral view, and she sent me an email about it and said, would you like to explain yourself? So what I did was I walked up to her like the 10 feet away, and I was like, everything that woman, like everything that this girl said was patently untrue, because in the email, she alleges that I wanted to start my own company. And I did eventually go on to start my own company, but at that time, that wasn't something I was thinking of.
Sure.
What had happened is we had gone to the beach, and she was like, if you had your own company, what do you think you would do? And I was like, oh my God, I wouldn't even know where to start. Like, like maybe I'd make this item, maybe I'd make that item because I'm in product development. And so she used that against me. I don't even know how I slept the night that all unfolded. I did.
I bet. I'm shocked.
But I don't know how.
I take it you were not friends with her anymore.
Oh, no.
No,
nope. Eventually she did end up sending an email saying she shouldn't have done that and it wasn't true. But that was after a period of time where I felt I was being scrutinized and questioned.
Yeah, you probably were. I mean,
I was.
Yeah. But it shows it's like vindictive, reactive, but I agree. I do not, it's like mixing family with money. You don't mix friends and jobs. Like there are certain things you just don't do because it never ends up well.
No, which is why Nicola and I work well together, because we were not friends. We were coworkers.
Yes.
And we worked with each other.
Yeah.
Now I do consider Nicola a friend. That's the only sequence in which it works. Like exactly. You can't be friends. And if that situation does exist, it is very unique. Very unique. It would be like a one-time thing. Okay, so tell us another story that stuck with you.
When this happens too, it can happen at any age. It starts at such a young age. So I know a lot of people think, oh, middle school, high school. I remember with my daughter, I was shocked. It started in kindergarten, and she came home and told me about how these girls were playing on the playground. And I thought, oh God, I thought I had more time. And then the second thing I thought was, these little girls are mirroring behaviors that they see from other females in their life, because at 5 years old, you just don't have it in you to act like this. Like you're seeing it from somewhere. So,
well, how are they acting? Were they like being aggressive or
being aggressive and mean on the playground? Well, you can't do that, or you stay, just mean, just not nice. That,
So
and,
we're,
you know,
as devil's advocate, we're
Yeah.
you know, as a parent myself,
Yes.
I'm curious to know, was that because they're 5 and they're not
Exactly.
quite cognizant yet, is
Yeah.
that a direct translation potentially of assertiveness, that they haven't quite landed the delivery of
It could
assertion?
be. And it could be that they've seen it, another prominent figure in their life being assertive, but they don't also yet have the social skills to curb
deliver it
in.
well.
Exactly. So,
or to like differentiate between being assertive and aggressive,
Yeah.
or
Yes.
assertive and mean. Yeah.
yeah. But also like in terms of, to flip it to back to the mean girl behaviors, I'm like,
Mhm.
you don't want to raise somebody that will be walked over. I want to raise a strong
No.
girl and boy,
Of
you know,
course.
both of my kids. I want them
Yes.
to have their voice and use it, but I want them to have empathy and be kind. And so what I always say is it hurts if somebody is not being nice to you, but how you respond is totally up to you. You do not have to stoop to their level to get even. You can walk away, or you can say something else, or you can come back at it at a later time. But if you are responding with the same behavior that's directed towards you, then you're kind of doing the same thing they are.
You're part of the
terms of-
problem.
you're part of the
let's try to
problem.
be part of the
Yeah.
solution instead. So what happens though? Like, obviously, you know, we know that you said it starts a lot earlier than we would even think, this whole like
Yeah.
mean girl thing. But why do you think it might come out in workplace? Like I'm having trouble actually asking the question, but why is
more
it-
at work than other places?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. I think that's the question.
Yeah. So socially it will come out, but I think with work, you know, like work is your livelihood. It's where you make your money. It's a lot of times it's your identity, you know, depending on what you're doing. And so maybe if you're in an environment where there are few women, there's less room at the top. If you're in an environment where there's, you know, limited seats at the table or the glass ceiling, you know, there are so many things. Maybe somebody's just mean and wants to take you out and doesn't like you, you know, like you.
It could be
There-
that base. Like
It could be
just-
that, but at work, it's hard to often, I speak my voice, but some people don't. Like if you feel, if there's fear, like if the person that's projecting the behavior toward you is in charge of your paycheck or your promotional track, that's scary. Because it can be a full-time job to look for a job. And so it's not so easy to just leave or quit like I did. For everybody listening, always have your resume up to date. Like that's like one of
yes.
my key things. So you can like jump ship if you need to, but yeah, I think there are so many factors at work. A lot of it is jealousy. It sounds like Gina, you dealt with the jealousy. Maybe you too, Nicola. Like, but I know with me, I truly think the gal was jealous when I had it really bad, because I came from the background that we were working in for the project we were on, and she came from a totally different background. So when we were talking about changing the culture and, you know, changing leadership and implementing these organizational development strategies, this was new to her. So I had the learning curve on her, but in my mind, I'm like, we're working together as a team, but she didn't see it that way. It was like,
she probably
competitive.
saw you were like a know-it-all or something. To her,
Probably.
it probably felt
Yeah.
like, or also, what is that thing that the kids say? Imposter syndrome?
yes. Yeah.
Like, so
It's a big
like,
deal too. Self-doubt.
I'll be
I always
honest.
feel imposter syndrome.
I don't really quite understand what it means. Like, to me, I think it means for me that I don't actually think I'm as successful as I am, because
Or you
I
doubt
might,
your successes. Like
I
you-
doubt,
yeah.
yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So what I always say, like, I think that is a huge deal. I think low self-esteem, but what I say to people, like, in a way I call the imposter syndrome, that voice in the back of your shoulder, that talker, I call it your inner she bully. She's there chatting away and you have to shut her up, because if you don't like what that little voice is saying to you, you're not going to like yourself. And I'm a firm believer that women who like themselves love other women. Like, that's what it comes down to. If you don't like yourself, it's going to be very hard to form relationships with other people.
I don't think that's true, because I
don't?
dislike myself so intensely that I want to like other people more.
But why? You shouldn't dislike yourself. Come on, what's going on there?
I think it's just
I had a
very
narcissistic
hard.
Okay.
parent.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I feel like it's very hard as a woman to actually like yourself, period.
Well,
Regardless of
hard.
your upbringing, regardless of what kind of parents or family dynamic you had. I think it is extremely difficult because of all of the extraneous pressures that are on us.
There are a ton.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think it's doable all the time, but I think you can make an effort to do it a lot of the time.
You have to you have to make a concerted effort, whether that's therapy or journaling or whatever works for you. But I think it's very rare to have a woman who likes themselves.
Or doesn't have self-doubt.
Oh no, that's when you have to tame the she bully, but I think she's there.
You have to just basically work on it. It's like
be
a
mindful
work in
of
progress.
it.
Yeah.
Always. Yes.
Even now, even after I have done a shit ton of work on myself in all the ways, I still doubt myself. I still doubt my successes. I still doubt the way I look. I did get a boob job. I hate my boob job. Like everything, it's still there. And I don't know if it's worse for our generation. Hopefully it gets better like for my daughter's generation. I don't know.
No, it's hard. But if you look at what's out there and what's presented to us, like there's always a way to make yourself better. Yeah.
I guess. So let's circle all the way back.
We could talk for hours.
This is a subreddit as well. Gina gets me she gets me revved up about circling back.
Okay, but so what are the coping mechanisms when for if you do find you have a workplace girl bully / frenemy, like how should you handle it? What is in your control?
What's the anecdote? The antidote.
The antidote.
The anecdotal evidence. The antidote.
Just stop talking, Nicola.
The antitoxin.
You always, because this is so passive aggressive and intangible, it's hard to tell if you want somebody to help you, if you want to go to HR, go to a leader. So document, always document. It doesn't mean record somebody because you can get into trouble for that. But
that's how Nicola got fired.
Yes, I've heard of women getting fired, but it worked in their favor to highlight what this mean person was doing. But you have to know like what state or wherever you have to know what the rules of the state. The laws.
Yeah, but it's tricky when you're in New Zealand and you are allowed to record people.
Well, then have at it. Because that's tricky. The best way to find. Yes. So document, because after a while, a theme will be produced and then you have evidence to share with somebody. If you feel comfortable going to talk to this individual one-on-one, but maybe go for a coffee or go for a walk so you're not in the work environment. I put it back on me. I feel like we could work better together. She denied it. She completely said there was no problem. So that could backfire.
Maybe to her that there was no. Who knows?
No. Like 2 days later, she exploded on me. But okay.
Yeah. No, but I think there might be some cases where they truly don't see it. They can't see their behavior.
Absolutely. So try talking to that person. If you don't feel comfortable with them, maybe bring somebody in when you're alone. So chances are if you do that, it won't happen because a lot of times the behavior dissipates if other people are around. And then escalate it if you can. But I think sometimes you really have to look hard and ask some hard questions. Is this the work environment I want to be in? Because even if it changes, is this behavior accepted? It kind of sounds like with the example you two gave, those behaviors were the norm. And so if that's the case, do I need to walk away because, your job is your livelihood and look at how much time you spend there. And when you're dealing with these behaviors, they don't just stay at work. They come home with you. They impact every part of your life. And
especially now that we are often working
Yes,
from
yes.
home, it's
Exactly.
even harder.
I know we've kind of touched on kind of the antidotes or the antitoxins for these toxic workplaces. What are some of the other suggestions you would give to leaders or, you know, business owners or people that are leading groups of people or groups of women to avoid this from percolating and becoming a thing?
Well, I think it's, again, back to the psychological safety, having an environment where people feel they can be themselves, and open communication is key. And so I think when you onboard people, and you know how you have your HR training, if you include this in the bullying behavior, but where there's awareness, I think so often things are not talked about, and that's what makes it a taboo subject. Like, you can't then openly address it. So you have to have transparent communication. I also think, why not implement bystander training? You know, like, if things are, everybody's aware, then it's a safe place to say, hey, I see this is going on.
Bystander training. I love this. I'm
Yeah.
actually taking a note for this.
Yeah, bystander, it's a real thing. And so you would have training where everybody's on board, but then if somebody else sees it, they know they're not going to be a target if they raise their hand and say, hey, I don't like how you're treating so-and-so.
Yeah.
So that's a big one as well. And then often too, I don't know, sometimes this can backfire or not, but I think it's important to get to know each other as people and not just a coworker. Like, doesn't mean you're best buddies with everybody, but if, you know, I now know you both have kids. And so, like, if you get to know each other on a little bit more of a personal level, it puts an extra stake in the game, and that helps. There's lots of little different things. And then there's the, you know, not 3 strikes you're out rule, 1 strike you're out. We don't tolerate this behavior here. Like, if you do not treat people, you're not always going to be best friends with everybody. That's a given. Sometimes you're going to work with people you don't like, but if you could
Say it all the time.
Exactly. If you can be kind and still get the work done and put your personal differences aside, like, that's a big deal. But true mean people, I don't have any tolerance for them. I think then you're out of here.
Yeah. And it's so funny because we were talking to someone else who was talking about how, you know, in an ideal workplace, it's okay to have bad days. It's okay, you know, to say things, misspeak, and then go back and say, I'm so sorry I said that. I realize how inappropriate, or whatever it is. But companies really don't want that.
They should. I mean, it's being vulnerable to, they should. That's part of that psychological safety. Like, you could, it's the vulnerability to say, hey, I had a bad day. Hey, I made a mistake. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. But so often in some environments, you make one little small error and it's hush hush. You can't talk about it because it's wrong and everybody will be on you for it. But again, if you are making a mistake or something happened, can't you also learn from that too? Like, I think there's learnings in those types of things. And who all the time is Mary Sunshine?
No, I was going to say, tell us where we can find all of your stuff, Amber. Tell us where we can get all of your things from, because I'm actually really curious to go hunting for your book now.
Oh, yeah, because I want to read all of the
juicy stories.
The juicy stories. So my book is on Amazon. It's on print, it's on digital, and it's also on Audible if you want to listen to it. So it's my website is in the process of changing. It soon will be Dr. Amber Tishner, PhD, but right now it's www.2BTOBE Coaching and Consulting. So I'm just changing my name, and I'm on all the platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, under the same name. Oh no, I'm transparent because you know what? It's all in here.
Yeah.
I have changed names, and I've changed, you know, I don't call out organizations by name.
Right.
Yeah.
And everybody's
anonymous. Exactly.
Yeah,
so, but I'm like, you know what, if you have something that needs to be shared, I think that can help other people, like what you two are doing. This is awesome.
We're excited about it.
But I think it's so important just when the research I've done, people don't talk about these things when they're in it. And so if you have a more awareness of what's occurring, it can help you talk about and give you support to know you're not crazy. Because I think so often people feel they're crazy when it happens to them, especially at work.
I mean, I definitely felt like, am I the only one seeing this? Therefore, I must be crazy because nobody else is talking about this.
Yeah.
You were there longer and you had basically drunk the Kool-Aid, and it took you a little bit longer to really realize.
You know, I had seen a lot of red flags, as you know, but I just kept making excuses for them. And
As we do.
you know,
Yeah.
as we do.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I'm just really disappointed in myself, really, that as what I would assume is a smart woman.
No, don't be. I hear that so often.
But I would assume that I would have noticed. And then I'm like,
That's
how did I
different,
not see this?
Because it's different when it's targeted towards you. Like, it's hard to see it when you're in it. It's when you're out of it that you have more clarity. But I swear, every woman I've talked to, they don't see it when they're in it. They just know they're unhappy, that they'll even start to get physical symptoms of it. They'll get the Sunday blues, like all these different things. They get psychological things, but it's hard to, especially because it's that ambiguity and the intangibleness of the behavior. It makes you feel crazy. You begin to doubt yourself, because why would somebody treat you that way if you haven't done anything to them? And you're not firing on all cylinders when you're experiencing
You're not.
that. So
No,
at all. And so it takes getting out of
agree.
it to have a true reflection. Don't be hard on yourself, please.
I felt like that for a hot minute, because I was like, if I went back and looked at it, and this is advice I have been giving to my friends and employees for years. People tell you who they are. You just have to be open enough to hear it and see it.
Yeah. Well,
So-
the tigers don't change their stripes, like,
Right.
or zebras,
So-
whatever you want to use.
Yeah. So the company and the people were telling me exactly who they were in the interviewing process in my first week or so. I, for whatever reason, just wasn't listening to it, or I was excusing it. I've come to the conclusion that I think it was basically ego on my part, because I was like, well, they're a small startup. Nobody really knows what they're doing. I'm going to be able to swoop in here and play savior and
You could be the
it.
fix it. Yep.
Yeah. And I think I probably could have been, but like you just mentioned, you know, the people around me saw me change within the first month and a half. I ended up having a severe skin issue that I had to be on medication for months after I left that company. So I had everything, but
because it's stress and your body has to deal with that in some way.
So
it reacts.
I'm very excited. I hope people buy your book, because
thank you.
It seems very interesting.
And I will absolutely link it in the show notes.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll link you in the show notes.
I love what you guys are doing. I think it's great.
Thank you. Well, I hope you continue to listen and tune in.
Absolutely. You're fun to listen to. That's too. Some podcasts are bore snore, but you guys are fun.
Because we talk about tits and dicks, and as well as we have also created our own toxic podcast. Thank you so much for your time. It was such a fun and informative conversation, and keep in touch with us. And if you do come out with another book and you want to come back on, let us know.
Thank you. Likewise.
Thank you.
I would love to keep in touch. Love you two ladies. And I'll chat with you later.